So you quit alcohol, made it through the 5-day acute withdrawal, and then made it to the point where if you were in AA, they would give you a chip at 30 days. And now the jump to 6 months. Third phase of protracted withdrawal from the substance that almost killed you. And stay with me and I'll tell you how to get there and what steps you're going to take to start reinventing yourself to a future holistically healthy life. If you've been clean and sober for approximately 30 to 45 days, you have made it through the first 2 phases of recovery from alcoholism. The initial blast of the first 5 days of acute withdrawal was nothing short of hell. The post-acute road to 30 to 45 days is where you will live a little down the street from hell, but still feel its intense heat, as the emotional upheaval and continuous cravings for the former offending substance attempt to pull you back into the fire. The AA meeting will give you another chip at day 30. For me, the first day I could actually say I felt good was day 45. Most literature will say it'll take 1 to 2 years for your neurochemistry to completely rebalance once you end your friendship with John Barleycorn, commonly noted as a protracted withdrawal phase. This is why, in my own book, I state the 2-year mark is the day you can claim cure from your former addiction of alcoholism, and you will stay cured as long as you never touch it again. That statement is, of course, heresy to the rooms in Alcoholics Anonymous. Their belief is you are forever diseased. Alcoholism, it's not a disease, it's an addiction. You may have predispositions toward this addiction, but you did not have cancer. The person with cancer had no choice. The alcoholic, he did. Your body and mental health is indeed sick while you're an addict because of the alcohol. When you cease this activity of drinking and enough time passes, the body heals itself. As long as you don't reach for that bottle again, you are cured from it and ready to progress your life forward in lieu of living in an AA meeting for the rest of it. The next big landmark toward that date of cure is 6 months. Many will claim that if you make 6 months, you have a good chance to make sobriety permanent in your life. I say it shouldn't ever be a question in your mind that you will make sobriety for life, even though you can't picture it at the moment. You make the contract day 1, and you're going to keep it for life. The phases are just formalities of how you're going to feel while you honor this contract. That's the attitude you take. For staying sober is largely your mind's resolution to do so. A sponsor, meetings, and mantras will not keep you sober. Only you can. And the good news is this phase isn't nearly as terrible as the first 2. It isn't great, but this is where you begin to rebuild your life, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You are past the roller coaster torment of the first 30 to 45 days. Physical symptoms will still be there a little bit, but you'll be living on the surface in the fresh air, with the depths of the inferno left below. Your mind will experience an up and down of emotions. One day you will feel euphoric, and the next severely depressed, even suicidal. Agitation will be very common. Things that shouldn't irritate you will irritate you greatly. You will have some anxiety, but the difference with all these emotional symptoms is they are now episodic instead of continuous. And that is something most don't consider in their path of recovery. These symptoms are no longer continuous in this phase. The episodes of these negative emotions are only going to decrease with time. That's the concept you hang on to. You are getting better. The cravings will operate in the same manner. Do you remember just a brief time ago when the cravings were intense and continuous? Almost every minute of the day you thought about nothing but alcohol? That will begin to pass in this phase. You will still have cravings, probably daily, but not continuously. The intensity of the cravings will also vary now. You won't always feel like you have to handcuff yourself to the wall to keep from running to the liquor store. Some cravings will be just like second phase, but some will now be moderate and a few will be mild. And you're going to have a few hours here and there with no cravings. By now you've ignored so many intense symptoms of those mouth-watering cravings that you know you can defeat them. And as you continue to put days behind you from that last drop to the 6-month mark, these cravings will lessen with time as well. They lessen with frequency, intensity, and duration. One day, it's going to be a rarity to have one, and when you do, it'll be much milder and won't last long. The way I viewed these cravings at this phase was like a surfboard on the ocean. The wave approaches as I lie flat, and I let the board go up and over it until it passes. You beat cravings yesterday so you can today. Even in third phase, John Barleycorn was attempting to resurrect himself with me, but he was growing weaker, just a little each day, and he would be even weaker tomorrow. You're not just winning the battle, but you're starting to turn the tide of the war in phase 3. This is the point in recovery where I could see having a support group in which to go. And as I said in previous episodes, it may not be a terrible idea to sit yourself down in an AA meeting at times in those early months of recovery, especially when the cravings are the most frequent, when you're surrounded by triggers of alcohol. If you must do that, do it without adopting their philosophy. You can tell your story here. After all, you're new to sobriety and may need to hear yourself say it. Geez Louise, I really was an alcoholic. But hanging out there every night for the rest of your sober life, I have a much better protocol. As previously stated in this episode, this is the phase where you begin to reconstruct the planes of your existence. Engaging in this reconstruction process will also keep you busy and your mind off that ringing phone from John Barleycorn. You look at the spheres of your being, also noted in my other book for people who need to reinvent their lives, the physical and emotional planes. The career advancement is something you can think about later on, as at this point, it is physical and emotional planes that are needed the most of that labor crew to begin to lay the foundation of your new life. So first, there's the physical realm. This is a pretty nuts and bolts approach. It consists of exercise and clean diet. The exercise program doesn't have to be a 3-hour-a-day plan. You start slow with this. You're going to have to because you're not going to have a lot of energy initially, because you're going to have a great deal of insomnia during this phase. Then you'll have periods of hypersomnia with strange dreams, usually consisting of the past, because the past is probably where the alcohol abuse originated. There will be periodic night terrors, but these will decrease as the emotional symptoms and cravings do with continued time away from that last drop. Your energy for exercise will increase as all these symptoms lessen. The exercise should be largely cardio in nature. Now, I've been a gym rat and kickboxer most of my life, so my cardio program is pretty intact. And I also lift weights for 40 minutes, so between that and my bag work, it takes about an hour and a half or slightly more. But you don't have to lift weights like I do. Your exercise cardio program should be 45 minutes to an hour. That can be the elliptical, bike riding, speed walking, or whatever program suits you. And you start slow. You may find that you can only do 10 minutes of cardio before you feel like you're going to collapse. So that's where you start. You can look up on the internet how to calculate a target heart rate for your age. That's what you train at. You're not supposed to feel like you're going to collapse. And once you have a baseline, you build it up to that time above, 45 minutes to an hour. I train 2 days on and 1 off. I'm in my 50s, so this keeps me mentally in the game as I'm always close to a rest day and avoid burnout at my age. Now, the close cousin to the exercise program is the diet. This is where you break hard from the AA habits of smoking, guzzling coffee, and sugar at every meeting. If you had to smoke to get through the initial tidal wave of early withdrawal, then so be it. I did, but now's the time when you quit it. You can still have a dessert every night and a few cups of coffee through the day. Just don't make it excessive. But the smoking, it needs to be gone. Have you ever seen the AAers 10 years sober, still smoking and sucking coffee like they're in the 3rd week of withdrawal? If the ones running the program had a brain in their heads, they would have opened a medical book and known that these habits actually induce cravings. They should have been encouraging a clean lifestyle after day 30. And sure, you can go to McDonald's occasionally, but for the most part, your diet should consist of solid proteins and whole grains with lots of vegetables and fruits. I bought a NutriBullet so I can make a gigantic vegetable and fruit smoothie and drink it all day long. Diet alone and the elimination of toxins like nicotine, excessive sugar, and caffeine will reduce the symptoms during the protracted withdrawal phase and gives to good holistic health even if you weren't an alcoholic. The physical program given with the diet is the same one I give to patients who are suffering from anxiety and depression. Next is the emotional plane. On top of the physical program, you must develop a meditative routine. This can be yoga, tai chi, or any type of meditative program you want. You engage at this for 15 to 20 minutes a day on top of your physical regimen. If you feel a panic attack approaching, you now have a tool to combat it as well. I still have long anger issues that try to surface at times. 10 minutes of Zen meditation stops that demon in its tracks. And if it tries to reach the surface, say 4 hours later, then I do another 10 minutes. But you will say, where do I have the time to do all this? Please, used to drink hours every night. an hour and a half a day for the physical and mental program, 2 days out of every 3 is doable. Most people spend more time on social media than that every night. You build slowly, as said, and you will find that after exercise, you're going to have hours of no cravings during this phase. Endorphins dropping from vigorous activity counter these protracted withdrawal effects. As a matter of fact, if everyone in this country followed the above program, we wouldn't have a nation that feels it needs antidepressants to get through this normal thing called life. One of the largest complaints you'll hear from the newly sober is they suddenly have all this idle time, so they hang out in the rooms and consume substances that induce cravings in an environment of complete negativity. So I advise to spend that time on physical and emotional enhancing activities that reduce the cravings of the very substance that got them in trouble. Why AA thinks this is heresy is beyond me. The only answer that comes to mind is because they are a cult that believes if you stray an inch outside their mantras, then you are that heretic. The weekends are still difficult during this phase of recovery toward cure, because even with the physical and mental program, there are still all those idle hours. So I have something to incorporate as well to fill those hours, so you aren't thinking about going back to the bar. It's pretty common sense. You create activities to fill your time. The outdoors is a wonderful holistic recovery tool that costs next to nothing. Take day hikes. Now I live in Alaska, and prior to that near the Sierra Nevadas, so the mountains are always part of my home. But not everyone lives in places like these, so drive a few hours. If you're in the flatlands of Ohio, the Red River Gorge is just a few hours south in Kentucky, and a few hours north is Michigan. Spend your weekends doing that, or take up fishing or hunting, find a course on wilderness survival. But no matter what you do, the outdoors naturally drop those endorphins as well. And if you're not into the outdoors, there's other activities to fill your time. There's museums to see, book clubs to join, maybe you learn how to woodwork, maybe it becomes your next occupation. But when you have idle hours that are inducing the symptoms of protracted withdrawal from alcohol, then you fill these hours with something else to think about, something that's healthy and possibly advancing your life. Or you can go to a meeting and regurgitate every night how terrible your life was in your former addicted state. Which avenue sounds holistically better? By now, you've had over a month sober, which means you're able to now comprehend an entire life into this new sobriety. You are incredulous how different it feels to wake up in the morning without a hangover and starting to wonder how you did wake up with one every morning for so long. The symptoms of withdrawal are still there, but the worst of the typhoon is over, and you see calm waters in the distant horizon. If you adopt this path of recovery, the above turmoil of the protracted withdrawal will be far less, for you're on a daily basis proving to yourself that you no longer need the friendship of John Barleycorn, because as you now know, he was never a friend to begin with. I didn't spend the day of my 6-month anniversary of sobriety sitting in a meeting. I was standing on top of Mount Whitney at 14,000 feet after a 220-mile trek. I hadn't claimed cure, but I was advancing toward it, and there was no doubt in my mind of 2 things. 1, I was going to be free from alcohol forever, and 2, Alcoholics Anonymous wasn't the tool to cut the chain to free me. Now, for all the episodes on the phases of recovery to cure, check out the playlist card at the end of the video. And if you want a more detailed version of what you already have in the episodes, check out my step-by-step guidebook, The Small Book, How I Beat Alcoholism and Why Alcoholics Anonymous Doesn't Work. Link is on the video description as well as the channel page banner. And remember, keep your contract. Be sober at sundown, and I will see you at the next sunrise.